Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Jacob. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi, now on a trip to the United States, has been consistently attacking the Modi government, saying that the government here in India is going after independent institutions like the judiciary, the election commission and the press, so much so that he says that India is on a democratic backslide under the NDA government and that democracy itself is under threat in Modi's New India. The White House, through Admiral John Kirby, who is the Strategic Coordinator Communications spokesperson for the National Security Council in the United States, today responded to that, saying that they believe that India is a vibrant democracy and that anyone who happens to go to New Delhi can see that. Is this constant refrain from the opposition and in particular from the Congress party, this refrain of democracy being under attack under the Modi regime, beginning to run out of takers in the West, particularly in the establishment West?
Attack on minorities, the attack on the press, so you get a sense of what is going on.
It was in the United Kingdom in March. And now in the United States, Rahul Gandhi continued to rain fire on the Modi government. At multiple events, from Stanford University to addressing the Indian diaspora, Rahul Gandhi said that Indian democracy was under attack as the BJP was crushing dissent.
I'm not entirely convinced.
He even claimed that all minorities were feeling insecure in India, adding that the centre had weaponized all agencies under its control.
The idea of a democratic model is being attacked. It is felt most strongly by the Muslim community. I can guarantee you my Sikh brothers are feeling the same thing. People are threatened. Cases are put on people. Agencies are used on people.
After a whirlwind tour of the Indo-Pacific, where Prime Minister Modi got a literal rock star reception,
Prime Minister Modi is the boss.
he will head to the United States for a state visit later this month. Ahead of that, the White House reaffirmed Indo-US ties, calling India a vibrant democracy.
India is a vibrant democracy. Anybody that happens to go to New Delhi can see that for themselves. But this visit is really about advancing what is now and what we hope will be a deeper, stronger partnership and friendship going forward.
In fact, during Modi's recent foreign visit, US President Joe Biden remarked on the Prime Minister's popularity in his country. He said he had run out of tickets for the scheduled dinner and should be taking the Prime Minister's autograph. Deepening US-India ties were echoed by the visit of the US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. In a big boost to India's Atmanirbhar mission, both nations have finalized a roadmap for the fast-tracking of defense technology transfer and the co-development of military platforms.
We're not only sharing technology together, we are cooperating alongside each other more than ever before. We discuss ways to increase information sharing, as well as new initiatives to improve maritime cooperation, including in the undersea domain.
The BJP has hit back at Rahul Gandhi, accusing him of spreading hatred as India's global stock continues to rise.
बढ़ते गौरव से पता नहीं उनको क्या समस्या हो जाती है। ये गौरव उनको पछता नहीं है और ऊपर से आप कहते हैं कि हम मोहब्बत की दुकान चला रहे हैं। अरे आप नफरत का मेगा शॉपिंग मॉल खोल करके बैठे।
The world is lauding and wants to do business with India as the Modi government expands its power play in the new world order. Have these blunted and sidelined Rahul Gandhi's foreign strikes?
All right, let's open this up to our panelists here in our studios. Supriya Shrinate, National Spokesperson of the Congress Party. Dr. Ajay Alok is spokesperson of the BJP. Rajat Sethi, political analyst, and Rasheed Kidwai, senior journalist, joining us. Supriya, let me start with you first. This is what John Kirby said, and he's the spokesperson for the National Security Council in the US. He says India is a vibrant democracy. Anybody who happens to go to New Delhi can see that for themselves. And certainly, I would expect that strength and health of democratic institutions will be part of the discussion. This is between Prime Minister Modi and President Biden. So why then is Rahul Gandhi and the Congress Party saying that India is on a democratic backslide?
You know, I find that argument actually bereft of logic, and I'll tell you why. A, I don't think India as a country needs a certificate from anybody outside our Indian political system or our electorate to get a certificate on how weak or strong our democracy is. So I actually shun this whole idea that somebody else is giving us a lecture on what is the strength of our democracy, the weakness or the health of our democracy. However, having said that, because we are trying to quote him, he also goes on to say that, institutional strength should be discussed. I think Mr. Gandhi is a member of the Indian National Congress. He's a 4-time member of Parliament. He is one of the strongest voices of Indian opposition, and he has every business talking about India and its democracy, and so should we. I think that's what democracy is all about: debate, dissent and discussion. And I think if we show the mirror to this government, 9 out of 10 times they run away from a discussion. 10 out of 10 times there is going to be counter reputation assassination campaign that's built. And 100 out of 100 times the government shirks away from responsibility. You look at the 288 people who were killed in the Odisha train accident. What is this whole conspiracy theory that is now being spun? Is this a sign of a mature democracy? In a mature democracy, you take responsibility, you do course correction and you act. So firstly, I actually reject the premise of anybody's statement being quoted who's not an Indian to say Indian democracy has weakened. I think it is our problem, it's an internal problem, it's an Indian problem, and we will find a solution to that. And that's not me saying it, I'm quoting my leader on that.
Fair enough, but Mr. Gandhi raises this every time he goes abroad. And so the accusation from the BJP and from the government is, A, he's attacking India and the Indian government from foreign soil, and you don't wash your dirty linen, especially when you're on foreign soil. And 2, how do you square that with not just what John Kirby said? You have an Australian Prime Minister calling Mr. Modi the boss, comparing him to Bruce Springsteen. You have Joe Biden reportedly telling him at the G7 that he's running out of tickets. People are calling to be attendees for the state dinner. How do you square these two things?
So let me just first answer the boss moment question, because almost everybody on Indian television went berserk reporting it. The day he was called boss, within 24 hours, Australia banned the entry of students from 6 Indian states. I would have also called him boss had he undone that ban. What the personal rapport that Mr. Modi seems to claim at a world stage doesn't translate into anything for the country. Why was the ban not undone for Indian students from 6 states that Australia has imposed within 12 hours of calling him boss? So that's point number 1. Point number 2, this is a very old script. Even before Rahul Gandhi was leaving for the States, I had a joke in office and I say, you know what? The BJP ecosystem, the government, the ministers, they will all be so occupied slamming Rahul Gandhi for first disrespecting Modi and then being anti-Indian. I think what he does strengthens Indian democracy. Who is he talking to in the United States? He's speaking to an Indian audience at times. He's speaking to people who are opinion makers. And I think it is important that he talks about India. We have a seat at the world table. Why should he not? He's well within his rights to. And what is the problem? You can go and speak to the diaspora about Nehru, but we can't show you the mirror on our own democracy. It's a little hypocritical, don't you think?
Ajay, Alok, this is what Rahul Gandhi told a journalist at the National Press Club in Washington. The thing to remember is that Indian democracy is a global public good because India is large enough that a collapse in democracy will affect the entire world. So that is for you to think about how much you have to value Indian democracy. Now, Mr. Gandhi and the Congress party are saying it's not just a democratic backslide. In fact, the words that I've quoted that he has said at the National Press Club in Washington is that Indian democracy itself is on the verge of collapse.
And he has also said it's a public good.
Yeah. Ajay Alok.
Well, Zaka, for Rahul Gandhi, since Nehru's name was mentioned, Nehru famously wrote a book called Discovery of India. And here is a person who is discovering India in US and UK and mentioning and calling the largest democracy of this world by all kind of names, and that weakening of democracy and democracy is in threat. What does he know about democracy? For them, democracy only starts from 10 Janpath and ends at 10 Janpath. That is what his democracy is all about. The one person who doesn't know that India is a nation and call that as a consortium of states, and he was rebuffed then and there in UK by none other than Siddharth Verma, an IITS who is working in a social relation in Cambridge University. And he said very clearly on that very day that your ideas are not only destructive, but it is counterproductive for India. But then also he didn't learn his lesson. He goes to US and he says that Muslims are being threatened and they are not being treated properly in the same way as Dalit was not treated properly in the 80s. This is the kind of depiction of India that he gives in the foreign soil, and then he talks of democracy. So this Bharat Khojo Yatra in UK and US I guess the Americans have given him a tight slap on his face that what he thinks about Indian democracy. Because whatever we say, whatever other people will say, whatever the common man will say, that it's not wise to go and comment and give you a commentary of a below grey matter commentary in the foreign soil, that's not going to affect his health because he's thick-skinned actually. And the people defending him, they also don't have any answer when he speaks about Dalit initiatives, and when he speaks about Muslims and minorities. And Rahul Gandhi and Congress party speaking about Sikh minority. The burden of Sikh massacre of 1984 has not gone out of the memory of this country. So Rahul Gandhi is doing what he loves to do. And it's like Manat Mohabbat ki dukaan, that rightly our president said, that he has opened a mega mall of Nafrat. But Ajay,
the point, one second, also the point that Supriya made about, if the Prime Minister can go abroad and speak about Nehru, why can't Rahul Gandhi speak about Mr. Modi?
Well, the speaking about Mr. Modi and the criticizing Modi is a different thing. He can do so with the Indian diaspora, but speaking about the country, the speaking about foundation of the country, not acknowledging India as a nation, but as a consortium of states, that itself declares and itself shows that what kind of democracy he believes in.
Okay.
These people do not have any faith in democracy. For them, the democracy starts with the family, ends with the family.
Okay, Supriya, quick response, and then
I
I've got
have a
Rajat
very
Sethi
brief
and
point to
Rasheed
make.
also.
It's very rich and hypocritical coming from somebody who sits there in an armchair to say Rahul Gandhi doesn't understand democracy. He has been elected exactly by this democratic nation, so don't make stupid, bizarre statements. Also, he calls India a union of states, but guess what?
Just mind your
so
language.
does the Indian constitution.
What kind of stupid statements you are used to making, everybody knows.
In between. I gave you the courtesy, I'm in the studio.
What kind of a stupid statement you always make on the screen, everybody knows, so don't try and teach me.
Because you know what?
You don't do that, and you better mind your language. You just better mind your language. Because the kind of Durlabh Murkh are just moving around with Rahul Gandhi and he's being the top of them. You are one of the slots.
One at a time. Let's take a moment off, please. No, 1 second.
Just ask her to mend her language.
One second. Make your point.
It's a silly argument and it will be called out.
Make your point, Supriya, and after that I'm going to Rajat Sethi.
The very little point that I want to make is that stop lying through your teeth. Don't lie through your teeth. India is a union of states, and guess what? Our constitution also says that. A constitution that you want to constantly attack and
India is not a nation.
Also calls us ourselves union of states.
India is not a nation.
And when you don't agree to that, you happen to see what Karnataka did to you, and very soon others
India is not a nation.
Okay.
India, the constitution of India declares us as a union of states. You know nothing about politics.
1 second.
You certainly know nothing about the constitution.
1 second. Let me now pull back. Let me now pull back, please. Let me now pull back to Rajat Sethi and to Rasheed Kidwai. Rajat Sethi, it's not just Rahul Gandhi or the rest of the opposition that is saying that India is on a democratic backslide. I have the Freedom House report 2023, which talks about how the BJP government under Mr. Modi has presided over discriminatory policies. The USCIRF report 2023, which is the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom, has also said that India should be designated as a country of particular concern, even though the US government has done nothing about it. So it's not just Rahul Gandhi or the opposition who are making this claim, but also other agencies and other think tanks and other institutions abroad which are making this claim.
Well, Jaka, you would be better served by throwing those reports in the dustbin. You look at the press freedom reports which these think tanks supposedly publish. They put out these data and they put Taliban's press freedom above India's press freedom. That's the state of affairs of these reports. You pick out these countries, pick US, pick Sweden. Sweden has barely 10,000 migrant population coming in from Syria, and the whole country is upside down. Look at their, democratic index. The way, the Conservative Party has completely changed the politics over there. Look at US. US is a broken society. Look at the repeated Black Lives Matter protests which keep on happening and the way it is muzzled by the police there. So India, very rightfully in the current establishment, has started pointing out fingers at their own democracy, real democracy indexes. Now, my point here is simple. Whereas Rahul Gandhi, and I'm not bothered about what think tanks say, what I'm concerned about is India's prominent opposition leader goes out and says about India. He says India is not a nation. India is a conglomeration of states, which is
a bizarre union of states. Why is libel peddled on your show? And the preamble of this country uses that.
Okay.
Please, again, you you accuse people of the mistake that you repeatedly commit. So please, madam, keep quiet.
I don't need a certificate from you. Go ahead.
Please keep quiet, madam.
Rajat, let's
Go
go.
ahead.
One second. To everybody on the panel, one at a time. And Rajat, stick to the merits, please. Stick to the merits. Rajat, please stick to the merits. Let's calm down and let's have a civilized argument. Make your point. Make your point. Calm down and make your
I will
point.
make my point if nobody interjects.
Yes, nobody is interjecting you, but please calm down, Rajat. Please calm down. Please calm down. Make your point. Make your point.
Please.
Make your point on merit, please.
My point.
Yes.
Please.
I'm listening to you.
Pause.
I'm listening to you.
You are inviting me to a show not to be insulted by politicians of the day. You know, they are doing their business. Let
He's
them
not a
do their
politician.
business. I don't care. I'm here.
No
You invite
affiliations.
to share my comments, and I will do that if I'm not interjected. And I'm given the due respect that I accorded these people.
Go
Okay?
ahead. I'm listening to you.
My point here is that Rahul Gandhi talks about democracy question, which is a slap on the face when the US administration itself, in response to a question which was trying to quote Rahul Gandhi in that press conference, US comes out and says that there is no democracy problem in that country and you need to just go to Delhi to observe it. If Rahul Gandhi has little bit of shame, he would stop his show, his US American show, and come to India and try to prove his point between the Indian electorate that matters. You can't go out parroting an idea that India's sovereignty is a public good and try to gather support around in the West because you are not able to do that here in India. That is not an approach where a responsible leader should go out and constantly, event after event, that he does, he belittles
Such an
India.
unbiased, unpolitical
Okay,
view
now
coming
once
from
again,
an unpolitical guest.
Rashid Kidwai is joining us. Rashid, the question that's being asked by the BJP and by the government and others is, how does the Congress party or Mr. Gandhi square off the fact that they have just won a big mandate in Karnataka? If democracy were under attack and democracy is on this backslide and that, institutions are collapsing and so on, how does it explain the Congress party winning one of the biggest victories that not just the Congress has seen, but that state has seen just, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago?
Yes, so Zaka, I'm glad you brought this Karnataka issue. In Karnataka issue, what did we see? We see, a prime minister who's campaigning there refers to a political party, which is a main opposition party, and accuses the Congress of aiding abatement of, terrorism. This is a serious charge, Zaka, even if it's spoken in a political language, in a political rally, etc. So this is how our democracy is all about. I think what American State Department is saying, they're within their rights and that's their official position. But America also has a very polarized polity at present. Look at the kind of things that are going on relating to US President's age and his ability to seek second term, etc. So you see, Zaka, I think it's a bit problematic in the era of internet and social media platforms, etc., to talk about this whole thing about, speaking on the foreign soil, etc. As I told you earlier also, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or Insta and all, are they Indian or are they, kind of international platforms? So these are the things I think we should take it as a kind of, we have a very boisterous democracy, very noisy democracy. It takes two to tango. There is an absolute lack of political decency from both sides as I see it, and this is the manifestation of it. I think Mr. Rahul Gandhi has found a very smart way of hurting and attacking the BJP and the Prime Minister.
No, but
going abroad and saying it.
The question being, Rashid, that if the establishments in those countries, whether it is in the US or UK, are not buying his argument, then is it running out of a sell-by date, Rashid?
Obviously, Zaka, I mean, the US State Department would always say that because that's their, known position. They would say the same thing about many of the dictatorial regimes that are there all over the world. So that's our official position. We must also, you refer to a particular report that was also, is funded by the US State Department. While the findings and all are not binding on the official US State Department, but it is also funded by that. So what I'm saying is, this happens in every democracy, and US is an exception.
So one second, Supriya. So my question is, just in a couple of weeks from now, the Prime Minister is going to go on a state visit to the United States. It is the highest level of diplomatic visit that the US government accords to a visiting head of state or head of government. After which he will also be addressing a joint session of the US Congress. Again, it's not a Democratic Congress or It's the unified Congress. It's a joint session of both the chambers. When they are rolling out the red carpet for a man that Mr. Rahul Gandhi says is singularly responsible for the democratic backslide, how do you, correlate the two?
Is that question for me?
Yeah.
I find the very premise of this debate very hypocritical, and I'll tell you why. Because the visiting US Defense Secretary has said something about our democracy, we are lapping it up. But it wasn't too long back that a very high-ranking official, the Secretary of State, if I'm not wrong, had said some very demeaning things about our democracy and the nature of justice being denied to India's minorities. And we were going on attacking him, including the right wing and the government and the MEA. So this is a very hypocritical argument. किसी ने तारीफ कर दी तो बिच जाइए, किसी ने बुराई कर दी तो उसके पीछे पड़ जाइए. I think this is our problem, this is our internal problem, and we have to resolve it. We have to talk to each other. We look for validation if it's positive, and we attack them if they show us the mirror. This cannot work. This is a hypocritical argument. This is a hypocritical basis of even the show, if I may say so.
One second. But
so
on the one hand, I'm not sure what comment you're referring to about the US Secretary of State. As far as I can remember, I don't think the US Secretary of State said
he did. Don't you remember US Secretary of State spoke about minorities
I'm happy to be
at the
corrected.
receiving end?
The second thing is, if your argument is that, this is our problem, we are going to fix it, then why is Rahul Gandhi going abroad and, announcing
because
these
he can use every platform to raise this problem. He is not asking them to fix our problem. We will fix our problem. But the reality is that you are denying India's opposition spaces and platforms to raise this problem. You do an entire conspiracy to first deny him a seat in the Lok Sabha because he was speaking against Mr. Adani. The reality is that voices of protest and dissent are being suppressed in this country, and nobody can look the other way.
Ajay, Alok, respond to that. That's the Congress's charge, that you're not allowing Rahul Gandhi to raise these issues in Parliament, and that's why he's being forced to go abroad and raise these issues. Ajay, Alok.
Well, what kind of attendance he had in the Parliament, I think every parliamentarians know, and this country knows. So the raising voice in the Parliament doesn't arise. And then he says that we are not allowed to use the tools of democracy. What are the tools of democracy, by the way? He did his Bharat Jodo Yatra with multiple rallies and multiple people interaction. Wasn't this a tool of a democracy? So who is speaking true lies? Right in the face.
So you did us a favor.
Rahul Gandhi is in a habit of doing all these things just to gain prominence. I didn't speak in between. As a constant irritant, you always do that. I don't mind that anyway. So Rahul Gandhi is in a habit of doing all these things, how to demean India. He's in a habit of doing it, and they will keep on doing it, and then they'll say that they don't get any platform. What more platforms they want? The problem, again, I'm saying, the very inherent quality of having control of everything. And the basic frustration with Rahul Gandhi is that my dad, my dadi, my parnana, everybody has ruled this country. Why I am sitting idle? But the times have changed. The democracy is real democracy. It's not confided to 10 Janpath. It is, has gone into the people, and people have decided not to give him a chance. And don't think, why again you are getting rattled. Again you get rattled. You get rattled very soon.
Supriya, let him finish, please.
You get rattled very soon. That's your problem.
I'll come back to you. Let him finish, though. Let him finish. Yeah, Ajay, Alok, make your point. Yeah, Ajay, Alok, make your point. Yeah, make your point, please. Yes.
As a continuous irritant, she always does that. The democracy flourishes in India, and in every democracy, people have right to and choose to elect the leader. And they have chosen Narendra Modi, and he will be the leader, whether you like it or you don't like it, you digest it, you don't digest it. So it's your problem, madam. It's none of our problem.
Okay.
And people of this country have decided what kind of democracy we want.
I quoted a data and you said it was wrong.
No,
Anthony Blinken, just let me finish this. Anthony Blinken on the 2nd of June 2022 made a statement saying religious freedom in India under threat.
Barack Obama also said something great about Rahul Gandhi in his book.
They went after him.
Barack Obama also said something great about Rahul Gandhi in his book.
So today, because you are told that you're good, you're okay with it, but when you're bad,
they quote Barack Obama also.
The word is lying. I don't think we as a population, we as a country are so shallow that we need validation from the people. इतने मजबूत हम हैं, हमें नहीं चाहिए इनकी बातें. आपको पता नहीं क्या दिक्कत है. आपके बारे में कोई अच्छा बोल देता है, आप माला लेके खड़े हो जाते हैं. कोई बुरा लिख देता है तो खंजर भोंकने को शुरू हो जाते हैं. Stop doing that. Because Anthony Blinken or Mr. Torben, they belong to the US administration. They will say things that impact them.
Let me
We
ask
have to see
Rajat.
the mirror
Let me ask Rajat Sethi. Again, I'm not going into, again, this is the argument put forth by the Congress and other opposition parties. Forget about, what the Western media is writing about India, the New York Times or Time Magazine, Economist, so on and so forth. No, but here is the Press Freedom Index, right? India has slipped 11 ranks in press freedom. It's now 161 out of 180 countries. Its press freedom index is worse than that of Pakistan.
That is the exact example I gave you, Jaka. I believe you are a very rational mind. Do you genuinely believe that you can do this media and journalism in Afghanistan? Please tell me a yes or a no. Taliban is above India, 10 notches above India. How is that even a report? Please, that is my first request on this show. Throw these things in the junk box. The reason is India's rise as a global power is not in the interest of the other powers and the incumbents. This is what I'm trying to tell you. They will not make the mistake of China seeing a silent rise of one country. They would want to impede India's growth story because they all know that India's is a noisy democracy. They would use our fault lines to the hilt. They will try and ensure that India's growth story is punctured wherever they can.
Who is this? Who is this they? Who is this they?
Do I need to give examples? Is George Soros not one? Is Rahul Gandhi not doing a nudge, wink, wink to his sort of external supporters to come in and help him out in this election? I mean, I am free as a citizen of this country to assume certain things.
A democratically elected leader of a party is doing nudge, wink with the anti-Indian forces. And you're willing to take this line down. What sort of a debate is this even?
How uncouth a spokesperson
let's get real.
Doesn't allow free, and she talks about democracy. She is the biggest,
I don't need a character certificate from you.
One second, again, one second. No personal attacks. Please, one second. One second. No personal attacks. No personal attacks.
Because you are supposedly
no personal attacks, please. Supriya, come on, please. Let's be. Yeah, we're all professionals here. Surely we can have a civilized argument. Rajat, one second.
When it is my turn to speak, why does she always intervene?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Rajat, yes.
You will make personal comments and I'm going to sit there and take it lying down. Not happening, sir.
Ma'am, please, I request you, please. Yeah, Rajat, go on.
People, that's a simple point. What I'm trying to say here is, Jaka, it's a simple thing that there are certain aspects of international relations which are classic zero sum. In those things, a rise of a nation is seen as the cost of the incumbents. There will be players like George Soros who would want to use these fault lines to their advantage. Are we so naive that we believe that the CIA will only want to support India's rise? Or perhaps there are other such state actors who would want to continue to support India's rise? There are issues. I mean, I'm not saying they're enemies. Nobody is an enemy, and international relations doesn't even work like that. Why would otherwise George Soros liberal sort of outfits that are out there?
But Rajat, how do you then square that with what John Kirby said? There are innumerable reasons why India certainly matters, not just bilaterally between the two of our nations, but multilaterally on very many levels. I mean, you can't. How do you square what a White House official is saying with what you're saying that the CIA is out to get us?
Jaka, please understand. International relations are not so simple and unidimensional. You've seen there has been reports, certain CIA papers which were leaked, and the way they talked about India, it was a report which was published in Boston. Please understand there are multiple agencies in the US. There would be establishment who would want to approach India in a different way. There would be certain parts of the establishment which would want to also look at what if India grows at a steady pace and becomes a challenger. So the issues are complex. Therefore, domestic issues should be handled between domestic.
I'll give Rashid the final word. Rashid, again, it comes back to a basic and a very fundamental question. The BJP is saying why Mr. Gandhi, the Congress, or any other opposition party is hell bent on spreading this idea that democracy is on a backslide, that institutions are collapsing in India, is because they're not winning elections. If you leave aside the Karnataka election victory recently, I think there have been 55 state assembly elections in the last 9 years of the Modi government, in which 50 of these elections have been lost by the opposition parties, including the Congress.
Yeah, so but I think Zaka, Rahul Gandhi has found this kind of weak link about the BJP's sensitivity towards criticism on the foreign soil. Whenever Rahul Gandhi travels abroad, whatever it is, the BJP gets extremely worked up. I think they go on saying that they rubbish all the reports and whatever New York Times or Washington Post is saying should be thrown in the dustbin, etc. But at the same time, there is a inbuilt desire to get that kind of recognition, not only for Prime Minister Modi, for the BJP, for our democratic structure, etc. And there lies the contradiction, and that's where Rahul Gandhi has found a weak link, and he is hammering again and again, driving home a point. He loves to disturb the BJP, and as I said that that we are having a very polarized kind of polity.
Okay.
He loves to disturb the country.
All right, I got to leave it. I got to leave it at that.
Okay. 5 seconds, please.
5 seconds, yeah.
So will
He loves
India
to disturb the country, not the BJP.
between a John Kirby and an Anthony Blinken, because they are saying two very different things?
Okay.
Will the government be mature enough to decide what a stand on validation is going to be? Because you clearly have no stand, and that's the plight of this country.
All right, we'll have to leave it
Not
at
an
that.
irritant like
We'll
you.
have to leave it
That's
at
the plight
that.
of
We'll
this
have to leave it
country.
at that. Thank you
You
very
see
much, Supriya Shrinate, Ajay, Alok, Rajat Sethi, and Rasheed Kidwai. Thank you for joining us on this debate one here on Brass Tacks. Let's move on.